Hey, what's happening, guys? As you look out the window tonight, it is 40 degrees and pouring down rain, and it is supposed to drop down below the freezing mark. So it could be very icy in the morning. Winter in the Great Lakes. Could be snow, could be rain, could wake up to a 1/4-inch ice coat and everything. You just never know. So tonight, fun project, fun time from Vogurtime. They contacted me and asked me if I'd like to build one of their radio kits, so I said sure, why not? So thank you, Vogurtime, for sending out your AM FM radio kit free of charge for us to have a look at. Yeah, it's going to be another radio on a chip. Disappointing, but should be a fun kit to build anyway. So we shall do that. It does have some decent information here, how to identify capacitor values, disc capacitors, resistor values. Yeah. So let's see what all we get in the kit here. Like I said, it looks like a nice complete kit. So here's the circuit board. It's got a surface mount chip IC2 already mounted to it. Antenna, tuning, high-low. Well, this looks like it's going to be a really easy kit to build, so that shouldn't be too bad. IC2, what is IC2? IC1, IC3. Okay, am I blind and I don't see an IC2? IC3. IC1. There's IC1. Yeah, I'm only showing 2 ICs even here. Well, one of them's obviously mislabeled, so whatever. Got our components here. Wow. This is going to be a really easy kit to build. This would make a great kit for a beginner because everything is in place. I get it open. Oh, Paul. Yeah, buddy. You really did it on that one, didn't you? You're all sitting there knowing that was going to happen too. None of you said a word. Some kind of friends you guys are. That's alright. We can put her all back together. So if you're a complete beginner, let's zoom in here just a little, and we'll take a look here. These are multi-layer ceramic capacitors. They're non-polarized. These are aluminum electrolytic capacitors. They are polarized. See that white stripe? That's the side going to ground. These are ceramic disc capacitors, unpolarized. We have resistors, unpolarized. If you're really beginner, you don't know what I'm talking about. Unpolarized means you can install them either way. And we have here are some variable resistors. Here's a single inline module, a SIM. There is our crystal oscillator. And then we have this wire, which I'm not quite certain the purpose of, but let's see here, number 17. If we come up here and look at 17, that is our FM antenna. Okay. Very good. So we have collected our soldering gear here. I'm going to take you out of the phone holder. We'll go over everything. First of all, we have a temperature controlled soldering iron. Something to clean the soldering iron. We have 6040.032 tin solder. We have a couple different types of flux and some flux paste. And we have a fume extractor ready to go. So, let's get to building. And tonight we brought along a friend to build with. That's right. It's my old friend from Mexico, Jose Cuervo. Say hola to Jose. Can't go wrong with a little margarita while you're soldering, right? Am I right, Barry? You there down in Florida? You drinking margaritas tonight with an alligator? Wow. That's 196. $10K. $10K. It's like a 1K. 40K. So I don't know if I forgot to push the button or what. We're just putting in resistors. They're our lowest component. Just push them in, bend over the leads there a little bit. Then we'll solder them in. Okay. All our resistors are in place. All the leads are bent. Bunches of different ways you can do this. I'm just going to do it by sitting it down on the board. And yes, don't worry, we will zoom in here a little bit. Whoa. Give you a little bit better view. Now, while it's true that this solder contains flux, a little bit of extra flux never hurts. It helps your solder to flow better. It cleans any manufacturing issues off the pads. Of course, it is important that you clean up the flux when you're done, or it will corrode your circuit. Got our soldering iron here. We always want to start out by cleaning the iron so that the tip is nice and shiny. And then you just want to add just a little solder to the tip. It's called tinning it, and you do that for thermal transfer. Place the soldering iron on the pad, no solder on it yet, and then you bring the solder to the pad with the iron, just like that. And then you'll get nice joints here. Can you see the shape? Let's see if we can zoom in here and get this. There you go. You see the shape of the joint? It looks kind of like a Hershey's Kiss. That's the shape you want. If it looks like an apple, that's not good. That's a bad joint. Once it's done, you just want to get your side cutters. Don't cut into the solder. Just right where the solder joint is met. Just like that. And that's all you got to do. Soldering's not hard. The only way to learn it is to do it. And a little bit of practice with a kit like this is a great way to learn to solder. Once you get the feel for it, it's really quite simple. And I promise you won't have any trouble. There's no timing or anything involved. It's not like you need to count. You just heat the pad in the component leg for a second or so. You add some solder, remove the solder, remove the iron. Little process just like that. Nothing to it. And then after every, couple joints, clean your iron, retin your iron. That's it. I'm going to trim these leads off. We'll move on to the next part. Okay, before we move on, look at this. This is probably the most common mistake you'll see in soldering. It's called a solder bridge. And what we have here are two pads that are joined together that shouldn't be joined together. That'll short out part of your circuit and it won't work. So what do you do about a solder bridge? Well, it's pretty simple. First of all, you get your camera to focus. Oops, there we go. Then you want to clean off your iron. Nice clean iron. Kind of tilt your board at an angle. Boom, just like that. And now you can see the bridge is broken. And we'll cut off our extra lead. And that's it. Not bad. Alright, next we're going to put on the ceramic disc capacitors. And those are going to be the smallest ones. And they're going to be the ones labeled 27P on the board. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but there you go. They're labeled 27 on there as well. Again, these are non-polarized, so you can fit them in however you want. Just push them through the holes. Kind of be careful that you don't stress the legs of them too much. Bend them just like we did with the resistors. 27 and 27. Now, you're going to notice something here. Okay. In between those two 27 picofarad capacitors is labeled X1 32.768 kilohertz. That's our crystal oscillator. And those two 27 picofarad capacitors are what we call the loading capacitors for that oscillator. That 27 or 22 picofarad are very standard values that you're going to find around crystal oscillators. Okay. So there we have that ready to go. Now this time I'm just going to use a soldering pen. Does the same thing. Just spreads out a little liquid love. Start by cleaning the iron. Just a little bit of solder to tin it. Then again, we bring the soldering iron to the joint. Apply the solder just like that. And we want a nice, shiny, Hershey kissed shaped joint. And the flux helps with that. It helps the solder do what's called wet, which makes it flow better. I mean, I don't know if it decreases the viscosity of it or what, but it just helps a little bit. If you don't have it and your solder seems to be going fine, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. We're still on ceramic capacitors. This time we're going to put in, if I can get them out, the multi-layer ceramic capacitors. And these are 104. There really is a little 104 on there. I know it's hard to see. Again, they're non-polarized, so you can place them in any way you like. Although the purists will tell you you should always line up so that your numbers are facing the same directions. And if you're at all OCD, you know, that's something you'll want to do. So on kind of a surprise note, my Jose Cuervo margarita, which I thought was natural flavor, is not natural flavor. It is mango. Wow, mango. Oh, it's a little bitter. Oh, wow. But I guess it, you know, helps the medicine go down, right? Okay, man. Into the hole you go. All right, there we go. So we got our 4 multi-layers in there. And this time, I will solder them up without any extra flux, just to show you, like I said, that it's not necessary. Keeping a clean tip, however, is necessary. So we're going to do that. Clean our tip before we get started. We'll zoom in here on this next one. We'll be doing this one here next. And again, we just bring the iron, touching the pad and the leg. Once it's hot, you can bring in the solder. Solder flows. Remove the solder first, then the iron. Just like that. Nothing to it. Did a couple joints. Give it a clean. Retin. Find the next one. I think there's 4 of them on here. As long as you're making sure that you have enough solder to cover the entire pad, you should be fine. Here's our last one. Now, what temperature should you set your soldering iron? Well, it depends on the solder, and it depends on your personal preferences. But I will tell you this from my experience, and of course this is only my opinion. Do with what you want. It's better to be hotter and get in and out quicker than to be colder and linger. Okay, so next we move on to our electrolytic capacitors, and they most definitely are polarized. If you put them in the wrong direction, it will be no bueno for you. So this one is I can't even tell. 470. We'll put it aside for the moment. We'll come back to it. Better to figure out which one it is by process of elimination. Okay, so that one's 100. You can see on there it says 100. And you can see these are marked plus and minus. The plus is the black and has a little plus sign. So we'll just slip them in there like so. And again, we splay the legs out to get them out of the way. What's next? Swim there. Another 100. Same way. And we double check our work by making sure our white stripes are lined up in the same manner. Okay, so that's another 100. So this is our 470. And we'll put it in like so. Again, we're checking all of our white stripes, which is the ground side, are all in the same direction. Just going to apply a little flux. That was really a lot of flux, but hey, can't go wrong. 10. And there we go. Remember, you want to make sure you have enough solder to cover the pad. In case you haven't seen any of my earlier videos, I learned to solder. Well, I started soldering as a kid, but let's say I learned to solder in the late 1980s in the U.S. Navy by a Filipino Chief Reyes, who threatened to kill me with the soldering iron on multiple occasions if I didn't solder things exactly the way he instructed. That wasn't just me. He threatened to kill everybody. It was his teaching method. Now look here. All of these grounds are facing this way. Over here, this one's facing the other direction. So it's just something to pay attention to, because you don't want to get caught soldering these in backwards. At a minimum, your circuit just won't work. This is going to be pretty low voltage. Looks like two AA batteries. So your capacitors probably aren't going to explode. It's just not going to do what you expected it to do. Okay. So that's looking pretty good so far. Alright, let's move on to the dials. Get them in here. Again, this is a really well done kit. I mean, instructions aren't even particularly necessary. Instructions are always welcome, but in this case, they've laid things out so well that with a small bit of experience, you could easily get away without instructions on this kit. So each one of these is different. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, they're the same. Better check them. Alright, we're good. This is one with the power and volume switch, so almost out of my favorite solder, but that's okay. We got some other stuff. We did a test on it. It worked out really well. So I'm going to start just by picking one of these here. Get some solder down and fill that pad. Once we do that, I'll just hold it there for a second till it cools. And we've got a nice solder joint covering that pad. And the benefit is all the other pads are nice and down, so we're good there. These are taking a fair bit of solder. And if you wonder why I'm spreading it out like this, it's simply to spread out the heat so we don't get too much heat in any one place. Probably not 100% necessary, but just call it good practice. And remember, it's always better to go in hotter for a shorter amount of time than to linger with a lower heat for a larger amount of time. So there's one. I'll do the other. You don't have to watch it. Okay, we got both of our switches and dials in. Now we're going to put in this IC here, which is labeled TA7368P 19ECEIN. Label side, pin to the left is pin 1. Whoopsies. So we will put that in to the pin 1 marker, like so. I'm just going to bend these a little bit, try and keep them in place. Real simple here. Clean the iron. I noticed there is a big difference in the odor between the MG Chemical solder and the Vogurtime. Again, I'm alternating just to spread the heat out. And I'm getting in and out as fast as I can, especially on an IC. Okay, good. So we got a switch in the antenna. We're almost done. Oh, and our crystal. Let's get the crystal. There's our crystal. It is an unpolarized component. There's basically just a piece of quartz crystal in there, cut to a specific shape and size to resonate at a specific frequency. So it really doesn't matter which way it goes. Kind of like a resistor. Good. Cut off our excess. I'm going to solder in the last two pieces, if you don't mind, just to speed things up. We've got these soldered in. We have our switch soldered in. We have our AM radio antenna soldered in. That pretty much does it for the soldering. So what we're going to do now is use some 91% isopropyl alcohol and just scrub the residue off the board. If you don't do this, you're going to end up with corrosion later on. The flux will corrode the metal over time, so make sure you clean the board well. All right, we're getting down towards the end here. Put in our speaker. Just rotate these clamps into place, and we will screw them in. Nothing to it but to do it. The battery holder. Also just screws into these standoffs here. If I can find the hole. Good pair of tweezers with a nice bent edge like that. Makes getting screws started in tight areas very easy. Okay, Couple last little solder joints here, and we're done. Tin them up real nice. Then we'll tin the pads. Then all we need to do is reheat and flow them together. Uh-oh. Of course, it helps if you actually get them to touch. There we go. All right. Ready. We'll put a couple batteries in here. Wow. That's tight. Let's see what we get. Well, can't leave it on too long or we'll get demonetized. But there she is. Vogurtime AM, FM radio, all built, ready to go. It was an easy, fun kit to build. It would be a great first electronics kit if you're into that sort of thing. Now, I got enough FM, AM radios around here. So if you're a patron and you want this, let me know over on the Patreon site and I'll be happy to send it out to you. We'll do a random drawing type of thing. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's kind of long, but basics on building kits, the way I do it. Not saying it's the only way, not saying it's the right way. It's my way. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe. That's it. I'm out. Peace.